In this video, I will be reviewing the plots that I've applied urine to, and in this case, water to, in years past. I'll have a separate video covering the experiments I'm doing this year, as you can see off in the corner of the screen. This plot, which I applied water to last year as a heavy water application, a light water application, and a control plot of no water application, I didn't really observe any difference last year. When I'm looking at it this year, I can see somewhat of a difference. There's definitely a difference, is that the control plot looks a lot darker, thicker, and taller grass than either of the plots that I applied water to. Well, this seems definitely the darkest and tallest grass in the general area. It's not uniquely so, this is a different species of grass. It it definitely looks a little bit darker and a little bit taller than around, though these plots do look lighter than the surrounding grass. And I find that particularly odd. I'd expect this to look exactly the same as the surrounding grass, and maybe it is. It's just kind of offset from the surrounding grass I have good examples of. But I think it'd be odd that these plots that I actually added stuff to, water to, I'd think that would have made them grow better, if anything. Unless now that they don't have water added to them, they adapted to having that irrigation. So, or last fall when there was less water through the months of September when I wasn't irrigating them, that caused them to die off to some degree. So looking at the other plots, they all seem somewhat different. This is plot B, and in the heavily fertilized plot, it's certainly tall reed canary grass, whereas the other place it's pretty sparse and the unfertilized, it's like pretty sparse and thin, some reed canary, but that isn't even as tall. And the in-between plot is with like low fertilization, certainly has some of the tall reed canary, but not quite as tall, and has some other stuff mixed in, whereas the heavily fertilized plot is almost entirely dominated by the reed canary. And while I'd say that this could be the fertilization carrying through, it's now been like a year and a half since I last fertilized these areas. It also could be because the grass is a perennial plant. The actual structures, the root structures, are carrying some of that advantage that they got from the, was it 3 years of fertilization that I put into these? Moving down to plot E, it's again, you can see the heavily fertilized plot is fairly tall grasses, whereas the other two are substantially less so. And each of these plots is different to some degree or another of it's showing. And this only had a year of fertilization, which could explain why the intermediate plot isn't really showing any different than the low plot. But overall, there's still something carrying through, even though, again, it's been a year and a half since this received fertilization of any type. I had intended to do updates throughout the season, but other than the photos of the plots you now see taken at regular intervals through the summer, that did not happen. Not even notes taken down. From these photos and the memories that I have, it seems that in plots B and C, fertilized for 3 years, 2017 through 2019, and plot E, fertilized in 2019, the subplots that were fertilized still showed evidence of that fertilization. For C and E, this seemed to be less obvious after the cutting, and for B and C, it seems like this may be just from the grass species difference, with more reed canary growing in areas that received fertilization. I don't have plots sufficiently controlled or recorded to have this as more than a hypothesis of an explanation, though. Plot D, with urine applied in 2018, did not seem to show any particular fertilization effects, though there is more prominent bedstraw, which I have previously referred to by my family's name of tangleweed, but mostly in the unfertilized area as it slowly expanded from 2018. One thing I found particularly interesting was how the area around plot F appeared in the early season as grass was just starting to grow. The areas I walked to water it last year appeared much greener, but I believe only because there was no dead, brown grass covering it like the untrampled areas.